Title: The Horrors I Experienced as a Cemetery Guard. Once upon a time, I found myself in a peculiar situation. After struggling to find a stable job in my field of graphic design, I was desperate for any opportunity that would allow me to prove myself and support my aunt, who had been like a mother to me. It was during this time that I received a call from Oshel, a friend of my Uncle Roman, who informed me of a job opening as a cemetery guard. Despite my initial hesitation, I decided to give it a try, hoping that it would provide me with some income while I continued my search for a more suitable job. On my first night as a cemetery guard, I arrived at the graveyard with a mix of excitement and apprehension. Little did I know that this one night would be enough to haunt me for the rest of my life. The cemetery, whose name I dare not mention, was shrouded in an eerie atmosphere that sent shivers down my spine. As I entered the premises, I was greeted by the departing guard, who casually mentioned that if I encountered children playing, I shouldn't be alarmed. Apparently, it was a common occurrence for the local kids to sneak into the cemetery through holes in the fence. They treated it as their own playground, and afraid of the supernatural connotations associated with such a place. Equipped with this knowledge, I settled into the small office near the entrance. The moonlight illuminated the surroundings, creating an ethereal glow that seemed to intensify the eeriness of the graveyard. I had a radio and a comfortable chair, which I hoped would help me pass the time. However, the tranquility was short-lived, as I soon found myself on the verge of falling asleep. Suddenly, I heard the voices of children nearby. Startled, I peered outside and witnessed a group of kids running and playing. I called out to them, reminding them that it was not appropriate to be in the cemetery at such late hours. Unfortunately, my words seemed to fall on deaf ears, and they continued their escapades. Determined to ensure their safety and maintain order, I embarked on my first patrol. As I ventured deeper into the cemetery, I stumbled upon a pale, fair-haired girl in a light blue dress. Concerned for her well-being, I approached her, only to discover another girl emerging from the darkness. They were identical twins, their matching dresses and contrasting demeanors captivating my attention. I warned them about the dangers of being in the cemetery and urged them to leave. Without a word, they scurried away, disappearing into the night. Curiosity got the better of me, and I decided to investigate further. However, as I navigated through the tombstones, I heard a woman's voice calling out for Jennifer. The voice grew louder, accompanied by a sense of urgency and frustration. I followed the sound, eventually coming across a woman standing near a poorly covered hole in the fence. She seemed distraught, shining a light into the darkness between the graves. Sensing her distress, I offered my assistance. She pleaded with me to help find her daughter, who had a habit of sneaking into the cemetery. I assured her that I would do my best to locate the girl. As I continued my search, a chilling realization washed over me. The girl I had encountered earlier was not alone. There was another girl, identical in appearance, standing behind her. They were both crying, their tears reflecting the moonlight. I approached them cautiously, struggling to comprehend the situation. How could there be two identical girls? Before I could gather my thoughts, the girls vanished into the darkness, leaving me bewildered and filled with unanswered questions. Overwhelmed by fear and uncertainty, I retreated to the safety of the office. I locked the door behind me, desperately trying to make sense of the inexplicable events that had unfolded before my eyes. The silence that followed was deafening, and for a moment, I felt as though I was conversing with a ghost. The weight of the encounter lingered, leaving me with a sense of unease and an unshakable feeling that something was amiss. The next morning, my fellow guards inquired if I would be returning for another shift. However, the terror I had experienced was enough to dissuade me from ever setting foot in that cemetery again. I bid farewell to Oshel, expressing my gratitude for the opportunity, but explaining that I could not bear to endure another night in that haunted place. Months passed, and I eventually found employment elsewhere. The memory of that fateful night continued to haunt me, but life moved on. Little did I know that the world would soon be consumed by a pandemic, bringing everything to a standstill. As fate would have it, I never had to face the horrors of that cemetery again. After leaving my short-lived job as a cemetery guard, I thought I had escaped the horrors that lurked within the graveyard. Little did I know, the nightmares were just beginning. Night after night, I found myself haunted by vivid dreams of the pale, fair-haired twins I had encountered that fateful evening. Their sorrowful cries echoed in my mind, a constant reminder of the mysterious circumstances surrounding their existence. In an effort to understand the truth behind their presence, I immersed myself in research about the cemetery's history. What I discovered sent chills down my spine. It turned out that the cemetery was once a resting place for victims of a tragic accident, a fire that had claimed the lives of several children, including a pair of identical twins named Jennifer and Emily. The story unfolded further as I dug deeper. Legend had it that the grieving mother of the twins, unable to bear the loss, had taken her own life in despair. Her spirit, forever tormented by the loss of her children, was said to wander the cemetery in search of them. Haunted by this knowledge and plagued by guilt for not being able to help the distraught mother, I couldn't escape the feeling that I had failed in my duty as a protector. The nightmares continued to torment me, their intensity growing with each passing night. Desperate for closure, I returned to the cemetery one last time. Armed with a small bouquet of white roses, I made my way to the spot where I had last seen Jennifer and Emily. As I laid the flowers on their graves, a gust of wind swept through the graveyard, sending a shiver down my spine. In that moment, I felt a sense of peace wash over me, as if the spirits of the twins had finally found solace. From that day forward, the nightmares ceased, replaced by a newfound sense of tranquility. Although the horrors I experienced as a cemetery guard will forever be etched in my memory, I took solace in knowing that I had somehow brought closure to the restless spirits of Jennifer and Emily. And so, I moved on with my life, forever changed by my encounter with the supernatural. The cemetery remains a place of intrigue and mystery, but it no longer holds the same grip of fear over me. I have learned to appreciate the fragility of life and the power of compassion, even in the face of the darkest of horrors. As I reflect back on my time as a cemetery guard, I am reminded of the countless stories that circulated among the locals about the supernatural occurrences that took place within the cemetery's confines. Tales of ghostly apparitions, phantom whispers, and eerie shadows became a topic of intrigue and fear. The community believed that the cemetery was a hot spot for paranormal activity, serving as a gateway between the living and the dead. During my brief stint as a guard, I would often overhear whispered conversations about the chilling experiences others had encountered while visiting their loved ones' graves. There were stories of inexplicable cold spots, strange orbs of light dancing among the tombstones, and even sightings of figures dressed in outdated funeral attire. One particular legend that sent shivers down my spine involved a hidden mausoleum deep within the cemetery. It was said that within its walls resided the spirit of a wealthy nobleman, forever plagued by the sins of his past. Locals claimed to have heard anguished screams emanating from the sealed tomb during the dead of night, leaving them trembling with fear and intrigue. Another spine-chilling tale recounted the story of a cursed headstone. It was believed that anyone who dared to touch it would be plagued by misfortune and tragedy. Locals would avoid even casting a glance in its direction, fearful of the repercussions that could befall them. Despite these terrifying tales, the cemetery held a certain beauty and tranquility during the daytime. The serene landscape with its carefully manicured lawns and towering trees provided solace for those seeking a quiet place for reflection. It was a space where the living could find peace and closure amidst the memories of their departed loved ones. As the days turned into weeks and the weeks into months, I couldn't shake off the feeling that the cemetery held secrets that were yet to be uncovered. Intrigued by the local legends, I began researching the history of the graveyard, hoping to shed some light on the unexplained phenomena that had plagued its grounds for centuries. My investigations led me to a forgotten diary, hidden away in the dusty archives of the town's historical society. The diary belonged to an old gravedigger who had spent his entire life tending to the cemetery. Its pages were filled with cryptic entries, detailing his encounters with the supernatural. According to the gravedigger's accounts, strange happenings were not limited to the dead of night. Even during the day, when the cemetery was bathed in sunlight, peculiar occurrences took place. Visitors had reported seeing shadowy figures flit between the tombstones, vanishing into thin air before anyone could approach them. Moreover, the diary spoke of inexplicable temperature fluctuations within the cemetery's boundaries. On some days, the air would turn frigid, chilling visitors to the bone, while on others, an unusual warmth enveloped the area, causing sweat to bead on the brows of those present. As I delved further into the diary, I discovered the gravedigger's account of a mysterious tomb that had been shrouded in secrecy for generations. According to the entries, the tomb was said to house a legendary artifact, a jewel of unimaginable power. It was believed that whoever possessed the jewel could communicate with the spirits of the deceased, unlocking the secrets of the afterlife. The gravedigger's writing grew frantic as he described the lengths to which people would go to obtain the jewel. Greed and desperation consumed those who sought it, leading to feuds, betrayals, and unspeakable acts of violence. To protect the artifact and prevent further bloodshed, the gravedigger vowed to keep its location a secret, burying it deep within the confines of the cemetery. Fascinated by this newfound knowledge, I couldn't resist the allure of the jewel and its potential to unlock the mysteries of the cemetery. Setting out under the cover of darkness, armed with the gravedigger's diary as my guide, I navigated through the rows of tombstones, searching for the hidden tomb. Hours turned into days as I meticulously scoured every nook and cranny of the cemetery. But just as hope began to waver, I stumbled upon a forgotten mausoleum hidden behind a thick curtain of ivy. As I stepped inside, a sense of foreboding washed over me, as if I had crossed a threshold into a world unknown. The air grew heavy with anticipation as I cautiously advanced deeper into the mausoleum. The flickering light of my lantern danced across the stone walls, casting eerie shadows that seemed to whisper ancient secrets. And there, in the heart of the tomb, I beheld a sight that left me spellbound. A pedestal stood at the center, adorned with a glowing jewel the likes of which I had never seen before. Its brilliance was captivating, an ethereal glow that seemed to hold the very essence of the spirits that dwelled within the cemetery. With trepidation, I reached out and touched the jewel, and in that moment, a rush of energy surged through me. Visions flashed before my eyes, snippets of lives long past and tales untold. In that moment, I understood the true power of the jewel. It was not just a conduit for communication with the spirits, but a vessel of knowledge and understanding. With each touch, I delved deeper into the mysteries of the cemetery, uncovering the stories of those who had been laid to rest. The spirits, once trapped in the realm between life and death, eagerly shared their tales with me. I listened intently as they recounted their joys, sorrows, and regrets. Through their words, I gained a profound appreciation for the fragility of life and the importance of cherishing every moment. As I continued to explore the depths of the cemetery, I discovered that the supernatural occurrences were not mere figments of imagination, but manifestations of the spirits longing for connection. They yearned to be heard, to have their stories told, and to find solace in the knowledge that they were not forgotten. Armed with this newfound understanding, I dedicated myself to preserving the memories of those who had passed. I became a guardian of their stories, ensuring that their legacies would live on. Through writing and art, I immortalized their experiences, sharing them with the world and giving voice to the silent whispers of the cemetery. The once feared and haunted graveyard transformed into a place of reverence and celebration. Visitors no longer trembled with fear, but approached with curiosity and respect. They listened to the echoes of the past, learning from the mistakes and triumphs of those who came before. And so, the cemetery became a sanctuary of remembrance, a testament to the power of storytelling and the enduring spirit of humanity. The horrors I experienced as a cemetery guard were not in vain, for they led me to a deeper understanding of life, death, and the interconnectedness of all souls.